Good morning, everybody. It looks a very small audience. Now, that's because we have quite a few people who obviously are back at the office trying to figure out whether their company has been sold overnight. It's a time of great uncertainty in the industry, and you might have read in this morning's paper that Pfizer is accelerating the sale and will have the information memorandum out in 3 weeks and expects to dispose of the business by the middle of next year, which is completely against what they were telling us until quite recently. So I assume the 20 or 30 people who are not with us are busy figuring out the next move for themselves, for their companies and for the industry. But notwithstanding, we're going to have a great 2-day meeting following an excellent workshop yesterday led by Steve Sowerby and the team. It really was good. You'll notice that we're being filmed because I'm very proud as a CEO and as a father to say that my son set up a film unit for the company, and there he is at the back filming everything. So don't do anything that you wouldn't want to see on the internet because you are being filmed. Now, we take these conferences extremely seriously, and not least we promote family values, not just in the sense that my son and my granddaughter are in our company and Steve's daughter Emma is in his company, but we take family values very importantly in the sense that we think this industry is a family, and we think that our conference is a family. So we have a little tradition, as you know, those of you who've been here before. The first thing is that we ask that any delegate for whom this is a first time at one of our meetings to please stand up. So anyone for whom this is a first attendance, please stand up. And we'd like to welcome you to our meeting in the usual way. And the keynote speech is actually going to overrun by 10 minutes anyway, because at the end of the keynote speech, we're going to have the first 3 presentations for the New Product of the Year award, because as Mary said, this is the year where we brought the awards to Asia. We have 3 awards that you are going to vote for as an expert panel, and we've got a surprise award that we're giving at the end of the 2 days for campaigns which you are not going to judge, but you're going to judge 3 important campaigns, starting with the New Product of the Year award, and we'll have 3 presentations, as I say, at the end of the keynote. During the keynote, my colleague Katerina Pantaleva will come and present some case studies to illustrate innovation. So we have an action-packed agenda starting with the keynote. So let's start at the beginning and let's observe that in this industry we have news. Now, why are the presidents on Mount Rushmore covering their faces? Well, it's because of this gentleman, who's, of course, a champion or an observer of fake news. Now, we're not going to talk about fake news in consumer healthcare, but there are some alternative news stories. Let's start with the news. So, the first thing is to say that this year, our industry is not quite as prosperous as it was previously. We're forecasting 4.6%, which comes after last year's 4.3% at constant currency, and this data from our database DV6 is presented at manufacturers or marketers' sales into distribution. It's not at consumer prices. So we have to go back 2 years before we see significant growth of the level of 5.4%. It doesn't seem a lot. The min-max in consumer health globally is somewhere between 3.5% and 5.5%, and we're a little bit off the top. In some parts of the world, it's actually quite dramatic, and the multinationals at the moment are extremely worried about the lack of dynamism in the United States. That's affecting a lot of the big companies. I think it's adding to the feeling of uncertainty that we have in the industry. And of course the current trend for divestitures is making, I think, everyone a little bit unsettled. So the industry is jogging along this year at about 4.6%, and actually that's the historical trend. It seems as though we haven't used much imagination here when we say that for 5 years the growth was 4.6%. That's what it is this year, and that's what it will be the next 5 years. But in fact, a lot of thought has gone into that. We've actually reduced the forecast down a little bit to this level, 4.6%. But that hides a lot of differences between regions and between categories. But we can still say the very positive fact that compared with all commodity growth, the International Monetary Fund's forecast for this year, which is 3.4%, consumer healthcare is growing at 1% ahead because, as we've said so many times, and as you know, consumers really do dig deep into their pockets for a little bit of extra cash so they can buy products to keep them on the go. And as we'll say in a moment, prevention is probably the most important emerging trend in this industry. Now, in terms of where the business is, here's my usual slide that shows the division between the emerging markets in red and the established markets, horrible expression, developed and developing, but we don't have anything better. Asia really isn't participating quite so much in the growth as previously. You see that the really fast-growing markets are Russia, which is coming out of a very deep depression and returning to its normal high level of both volume and value growth. Turkey, well, the government is increasing levels of reimbursement, and OTC in Turkey is still very much a reimbursed market. And Brazil is defying gravity. We're about to have the second president put on trial, it seems, in Brazil. The economy is flatlining, but consumers are still spending 8.5% more on consumer products. When we look at the equivalent in Asia Pacific, we see India going along at 8%, which is very much in line with what the historical trend has been. But China's a little bit off the top at 6%, and the other markets, Indonesia, is not as strong as it used to be. If we look at the dollar growth in the region, so here's a 5-year trend. We're looking at what contributed the extra $7 billion in the Asia-Pacific region, which includes Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Indian subcontinent, and all the markets that you would expect. It's coming, of course, number one from China. Even at 6%, the scale is so great that a 6% growth per annum gives almost $5 billion. After that, the growth isn't quite so sensational, and I think it becomes clearer why that is when you look at this market attractiveness map, which gives us 5 years historical, 5 years forecast. China, obviously, in the middle, having given considerable growth in the past. The other good market is India, top right, but Japan, a market that has shown a little bit of growth recently. It's big, but it's static. And then all the other markets are really clustered in the centre.